I guess we can get started. It's about 6:30. My name is John Phipps. I'm with Simon Property Group, owners of the mall. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and having interest in our proposed redevelopment. I'm here with some other team members. First, Erica Hickman in the back. She's the mall manager, which many of you probably know. Brad is with Hines, and Al is with HRC, our civil engineering firm, and John Jordan's with Gensler, Brad Silver. So what we thought we'd do is just give you an overview of the project and then take some questions. I know, first off, I know a lot of you have become very attached to the vacant Sears building. But frankly, we think it's time to move on. So what we're going to do is, it's kind of an awkward layout, but here's the mall as it sits today. We've highlighted Sears in red. So Sears is going to be completely demolished and carted away. And in its place, we are going to create a little a mixed-use development, the centerpiece of which will be a residential complex here, a grocery store, and a large format retailer. We're also, when we tear the building down, we're going to create a green space. So when you exit the mall, like if you were coming out, going into Sears now, it would be exterior. This tenant will anchor the mall partially, and then we'll have an exterior entrance, exit out onto this green space. We've also got planned for a future outlot there, which will kind of round everything out. So that is our concept. Pretty straightforward, but we're really excited about bringing these new uses to the mall, and we think it'd be a good complement for the property, and we think it'll be good for the community as well. So, I mean, what we'd like to do now is maybe with that, just field your questions, and we'll answer them as we can. Some we probably won't be able to answer, but hopefully we can answer most of them between Brad and I and these guys.
And John, sorry, if I can just maybe
Yeah.
add, as a Hines representative here, we're a developer. We develop multifamily all around the country, and we're excited to partner with Simon on the multifamily piece. So just kind of high level, right, the grocery and the large format retail, that's Simon alone, and then the multifamily development is a joint venture between Hines and Simon together. So wanted to just give you a little bit of context there in terms of just our relationship.
Thanks, Brad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the area that's going to be residential is currently zoned parking. What zoning will you seek?
We will be seeking the C2B zoning that the mall is currently, the mall building is currently that zoning classification. And there's a little flag out to the ring road that's also that classification. So really, it'll be just an expansion of that classification and will reduce the parking designation.
What are you going to do? Well, I guess how are you working with MDOT to work through the in and out of the traffic pattern on State Street? Because there's that amount of volume through the State Street. That, with what we have now, cars are backed up beyond Catnick at Christmas time and so on.
Right. So generally, we've done a traffic report that we have to submit to the city, and generally, what we're talking about is the level of service of the intersections will remain the same as before the development as after the development. The one change to the traffic that that is recommended is as you exit it's Briarwood Mall,
Hilton Boulevard?
Yeah, right now, there's two exit lanes, and it merges down into one before you hit State Street. And what's contemplated is to create another right out. So instead of one right out on the State Street going south, it'd be two rights out on the State Street going out, to try to relieve some of that.
Expanding that,
Right.
maybe why, into Kensington property or into.
I think we're talking about two different streets. He's
Oh,
talking
Hilton.
You're talking Hilton or Briarwood Circle or Briarwood Drive?
Yeah.
By the gas station?
Briarwood Drive, so,
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know all that, so.
yeah.
That's got a better.
Yeah, this one's got better things. So right here, as you're going eastbound on Briarwood Circle, there's
Okay.
two lanes that merge into one, and we're gonna create a second right out here to
Okay.
alleviate some of that, that wait time there.
What's the car volume you think is coming into the mall?
Car volume?
Yeah, I mean, right now, as I said, the struggle right now is with where Kensington is and where the Mexican restaurant is. I mean, as I said, at Christmas time, those cars are backed up. And any given night, if you stand out there, they're backed up past where the original Sears entrance was. So now you're gonna add in, I didn't hear the first part of how many homes are gonna go in. You're gonna add in large retail, restaurant operation, and so on. And with State Street now being bottlenecked the way it is, there's gotta be some correlation, or somebody's working with them to have to change the entrance and exits of State Street. Or else the traffic coming into the mall, and you're gonna bottleneck into the mall, even just getting your own customers in frustration points. Or not frustration points, but critical path.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, we hear what you're saying, we'll address that, and we have a traffic report, which will be available. But we feel, the report says, and we feel confident that the level of service will be substantially the same with that one modification.
Questions? Actually, a couple of questions that are sort of interrelated, and I think impact on the timing of this would be, so there's the Sears parcel. Who owns that now? And the parcels that you're looking to develop, will they be split, or are they already split? And then further related to that, I assume that the whole mall parcel project is subject to some kind of declaration or reciprocal easement agreement, and what kind of controls do the other owners have for the Mother May I that you'll need to change the uses here?
Got it, okay, yeah, thanks for that question. So Simon bought the Sears parcel. We were in a joint venture with another partner, and we bought them out, so we own it 100% at this point. There's several property owners on the site. Simon owns the mall building, and now the Sears building and tract. We own some property down here and some property up here. Macy's owns a parcel, Penny's owns a parcel, Walmart owns a parcel. And then the mall entity owns a parcel. So there's a lot of property owners, and you're right, there's something that, there's a reciprocal easement access agreement that's in place, where we will have to go to the Department of Stores. We're in active discussions with them now, and I mean, everyone's, wants to see this happen, right? Because this has been vacant for several years, so we will have to, that's private contractual things that we have to work out with them, but so that's something that we'll be working through while we're working through the entitlements for this project.
So hopefully the other owners have kind of reached the pain point where whatever you might have to cross their palm with would be lowered or go away. I mean, that's all.
Yeah, so, Simon has a lot of malls, and we've got these same folks in a lot of our malls. And so it's like a three-dimensional chessboard, so it all gets worked out in the end. And I think, you also asked about the timing of things? So assuming, we're starting our entitlements tonight with this meeting, and then we'll get your input and provide feedback to the city when we submit a site plan application. But we're hoping to get through the entitlement process, which is the site plan application and the rezone, by the end of the year. Don't know if that's optimistic or not, but we think it's realistic. And then we would immediately start tearing the building down. And then the Simon Hines JV needs a couple years to build the building. So if we start, it's called the end of this year, then the end of 2025 or early 26, the residential will be open. The other guys, the other players, they want to open with a residential. They won't take as long to build. It's not a 2-year build, but so they may start. We'll tear the building down, and then there may be a pause on those pieces while the apartments get underway. If we can talk them into opening sooner, we certainly will, because we like to see those uses as soon as we can.
And John, if I can just add, I think, for the existing mall businesses, to bring different uses, the grocer I think is tremendous, the multifamily, I think creating that diversity of uses that complement each other and create a live, work, play environment, I think is really powerful and I think a great advantage to the existing businesses. So I think to John's point, is that those conversations go on. I'd imagine they'll be, very excited to have that happen.
Yes, sir.
Can you share more details on the proposed housing?
Sure. Yeah, it's a 4-story building, about 350 units. A mix of studio, 1, 2, we've got a few 3 bedrooms. And, we're early stages of design right now, just focused on entitlement. But Hines is a developer. We very much focus on quality. We think quality holds value much better than building something that's not of high quality. So we're very particular about who we work with. We're very excited to be working with Simon. I think they share the same values. So I think what we're going to bring to market is going to be differentiated in just the execution. And we think it will be an awesome place to live with, this terrific grocer right here. We've got all this retail, creating a more walkable, bikeable home where you can enjoy, easy path up State Street to enjoy the university. You've got everything right here on site that a resident would want. So very excited about it.
What percent of the land or square footage would be for housing, for grocery, for retail? You said big retail.
Yeah. So the whole site is about 15 acres, 15 and a half acres. I think 6.2% of that is the residential. The balance would be the other 2 uses of parking for those uses.
I think 6 acres, right?
6 acres.
The multifamily is
6 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the balance is 9 something for a total of 15.
Okay.
And then, so the grocer is about 57,000 feet on one level. It does have a mezzanine. And then the large format retailer is 100,000 feet. And then I don't know how many square feet is the, it's not the way to look at it.
Yeah, I would say, I would estimate the multifamily is in the 300 to 350,000 square feet. Call it, I'm just averaging 1,000 per unit times 350. And then we will have, we'll have some courtyards within, and there might be a site plan somewhere we can share to give you just kind of a plan of what it looks like. But there'll be a couple of courtyards that'll be for residents to create some outdoor space and outdoor amenities. And then there's a parking structure as well that's wrapped with the building itself. So you won't see a parking structure, but there will be about a 300-car parking structure that sits within the footprint of the building that will serve a portion of the residents. Yeah, so this gives you just a little bit of a look here. So Like I said, 4 stories, a couple of outdoor spaces that are courtyards, and then the garage is wrapped by the units. We're focusing a lot on our landscape architect, focusing on the green space and the experience. Obviously, we're here next to a mall, next to the ring road, and there's a lot of automotive traffic. We want to make sure that there's some great walking paths and access for people, for pedestrians as well as for bicycles. So we're contemplating a bus route and thinking about just as the Ann Arbor Transit supports the mall area, that it's thoughtful in terms of the route that they take. So we're talking about a bus stop that will be in between the grocer and the multifamily. So trying to think about all modes and all ways that folks will use the site, use the development, and so just being thoughtful about that.
As to the residential, so it's apartment, not condo,
Correct.
and then geared toward multifamily as opposed to, say, student housing, which is, of course, we've seen a lot of student housing, but in the central core.
Correct.
And what are the general sizes of the apartments and the price points? And then lastly, have Simon and Hines done anything like this together before?
Good question.
It's the first endeavor, isn't it?
I think it is officially. I think we have a couple of different projects around the country that we're working on, but yeah, first one go.
Simon's doing this in a lot of our malls now, rather than replace a department store with another department store. That universe is shrinking of available department stores. And actually, the guys that lease the mall now, they're saying, we don't want more of the same, we want something new and, a little more dynamic. We've done this in a couple places, but where we have available inventory of vacant acres in the market, and the market's there for it, this is the way we're going pretty much.
Any idea price points for rents?
Yeah, I think it's going to be market rate for the most part. We'll have an affordable component, but the majority of the units will be market rate, and I think that's kind of a constantly moving target, and we're a few years out. It's kind of hard to say. In terms of the unit sizes, I think because we're ranging from studio 1-bedrooms up to a few 3-bedrooms, the range will be pretty big. With all the amenities that we try to put into a project, both indoor and outdoor, I think we found that folks wanted a very efficient layout. So just the efficiency of the layout is important. So I would say the range from the smaller units might be, John, in the 600, 700, yeah, something like that, where it'll be a smaller unit upwards. The 3-bedrooms might be, 1,500 square feet or 1,600 square feet.
Right, but that would be going from a 1-bedroom to a 3. A studio is probably 500,
Okay.
75.
Good. Thanks.
I'm here representing senior citizens.
Excellent.
Who are you targeting to live here?
That's a great question. I think as mentioned, I don't see as many students here, just based on location. I think there's a really broad mix. I think it's seniors looking to downsize. I think looking for lifestyle and opportunity to be in a place where they can easily walk, to retail, to grocery store, etc. So I think in everything, in between really. But I would come up from students and say maybe it's faculty. Maybe it's some grad students that want to get away from campus a little bit, but I'd say from a demographic range, it's pretty wide, in between that point and seniors. I think it's really in between.
Here at the mall, prior to the pandemic, the School of Kinesiology runs an exercise program out from JCPenney, and there was 100 people who would show up. you know, every day.
It's awesome.
And pandemic slowed it down, it's on its way up. They, the seniors, they like the idea of if they wanted to buy one of these, they can go grocery shopping, and they can do all that stuff. So I guess one of the things I have with the seniors, they say, you know, what they would like, of course, they want a grocery store. They want a big diner. Big diner, you go in there, you know, big diner, for $20, you get some, go through the diner and get some food. Any thought about?
Well, this grocery store, I can't tell you the name, but it's new to the market. They're really big on farm to table type of things, local regional produce. But it will have a component. It will have a, you know, it'll have a little. It'll have, you can buy prepared foods. It'll have a dining room. It's got a mezzanine, so you can sit upstairs and you can eat. There's a wine tasting. So it's like an experiential grocery store, but they'll also have the typical grocery store offerings. If you want to get your day-to-day stuff, you can.
Experimental grocery store.
Experiential.
Experiential.
Yeah.
Sounds a little better than experimental.
Yes. Experimental is a little bit.
That's too cutting edge.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Thank you.
When you mentioned the retail space, for like the big retailer, is it gonna be one retailer, like a department store, or is it gonna be multiple?
It'll be one retailer. Well, it's all I can say at this point. It's a large format retail. It's not a conventional department store.
Did everybody have a cookie or two? There's a lot of cookies back there. Good, all right.
Sorry, nobody, I'm just gonna keep asking questions because I have a lot, and then you tell me to shut up.
Margaret, we would never tell you.
So affordable housing, recognizing that there's no, like, you know, black and white definition of what that is, and depends on like eye of the beholder. As the public, you know, member of the community, I'm very concerned about that. Certainly Ann Arbor statistically needs a lot of housing, including affordable, however it's defined. And you guys are really smart, so I assume you're looking at this. I'd like to encourage any kind of public incentive at the local level, at the state level. I don't know what's available at the federal level, but to help make that happen. Because you're experts in this, but you know that that could make a huge difference in terms of not just having private financing, but public financing, and at the state level, you know, there's more money available. So I assume and hope, and I see nodding heads.
No, that's great. That's a
That
great
it would
reminder.
be something
Yes,
that you're
for sure.
really looking at and
Absolutely.
really mining, because not all of that is, in my observation, necessarily made really public, and it can take some real digging. Certainly with Simons and Hines, national footprints, I assume that you've got tentacles into this, but as a member of the public input, please really look at that, because private financing residential development alone, I mean, just isn't going to translate into truly affordable for workforce housing.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another question. Without revealing, I mean, I understand your behavior about identifying the grocery store. Are you able to let us know, like, kind of generally what the letter of intent stage, or the maybe twinkle in the eye, maybe, you know, like
Can
kind
we
of
do 50 questions? If I throw them out there, start with W.
where that is?
I think she needs to come and work at Simon, because she's asking all the questions that I get asked internally. We really can't say too much more about that at this point.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah.
Will there be any remodeling done to the inside? Okay, you're late, I apologize. Will there be any remodeling done to the inside of the mall and the current stores with Macy's and?
Let me just get back, and let me just say this about your last question. If we weren't pretty sure we were, far enough along in our negotiations to start this process, then, we wouldn't be doing it. So, high level of confidence there.
That's great, thank you.
And then as far as the inside of the mall, nothing is planned, although when we take the building down, and then you'll come out, as I said, so the Sears building used to sit here. This retailer is going to have an entrance right from the mall inside, and then there's going to be this exterior. This is all exterior. So what we've done is we've exposed this GLA, and that's an excellent opportunity to have this retail that's inward facing now become outward facing and kind of activate the screen space. So that's something that's an opportunity that we've afforded ourselves. But that's really the extent of, when we find the right tenants for that and we turn them outward, that's really about all we're going to do to touch them all at this point. Yes, sir.
Is the residential intended to be built in a single phase?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is this, is the mixed-use concept specific to Briarwood, or are there other models around the country that Simon is working to redevelop in a similar manner?
We're working to redevelop in a similar manner. I'm involved in a mall in Edina, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul, which reminds me a lot of Ann Arbor. And there we're doing this exact same thing. We built we built residential, and then we were also repurposing. In this instance, we're not taking the building down, we're repurposing it to a grocery store and an entertainment venue. So it's not every mixed-use development is going to have those components, but we're looking at doing this wherever we can.
So you guys haven't done one yet, but you're in the process of doing a few different ones?
Correct. Well, we just finished one. It's not directly analogous, but down in Atlanta, in Buckhead, we took down a department store and 3 levels of parking underneath it, built the parking back. So instead, in place of the department store, we put an office building, a food hall, and a Lifetime Fitness, and a hotel. So it's really market dependent, but we are, like I said, it depends on the market and the available anchors. Unfortunately, some of the malls have 1 or 2 anchors that are empty, and it's not, we can't get there with something like this, but this is a great market. And so, we had plenty of interest from Hines and others.
One of the things we find out about our community is that the community highly prioritizes sustainability elements in buildings. Which sustainability elements you incorporate into these new buildings?
I'll speak to Rosie and I'll speak to
Sure. So from a multifamily perspective, the avoiding gas appliances is just an easy one that everyone can imagine. Just an all-electric building, right, that doesn't use fossil fuels but relies on electricity, I think is probably high on the list in terms of sustainability. I think just the product type itself is a wood frame, so it is a renewable type of structure. And so I think in terms of our material selections throughout, whether it's on the outside of the building or within, I think we always have a mind towards sustainability. Our firm has been very involved in that over the course of time through the USGBC, and whether it's LEED certification, we help to write the book in terms of what are the best practices for thoughtful construction, thoughtful development. And so I think, Ann Arbor is no different, this product type is no different. I think it's kind of embedded in our philosophy as a firm to pay attention to. Now, sustainability to me is sort of table stakes. Everybody should be thinking about it, but I think in terms of decarbonization, that's really the latest thought process, right? Is how are we decreasing our carbon footprint? How can we do that and living, I think, in a multifamily environment with a limited footprint, I think is a way to think about that. Making a more walkable community, where you can take buses, you can ride bikes, you have your grocery and your retail all around you, so you don't have to drive across town. Just some of those thought processes baked into this location is why we really are excited about creating this environment here adjacent to the mall.
I know as far as the demolition of the building, we have to repurpose a large amount of the material that's demolished, so we're aware of that. We've, the Resi building as well as the rest of the project will have the requisite number of EV active spaces. We're at bike racks to kind of help with that multimodal. So we're, on the property that we're redeveloping, we're thinking pretty hard about it.
You mentioned with residential, if everything goes as planned, maybe end of 2025, start of 2026. Do you know, and I might have missed it, the retail and brochure, like?
They want to open, they don't have as long of a time to build, but they'd like to open with the residential. They could open sooner. We're going to press them to open sooner.
Now, we said 2 years?
2-year build for the residential. The other components will take about a year.
It's 2-year build from when you have
Correct.
your final
So,
permit build.
yeah, if you think of it 1/1 of 24 starting, then 1/1 of 26, about 2 years to finish.
I'm sorry, you may have said this before I came in. How many units total?
350.
That's a lot of units.
It's a lot of units, yes. With that density, it does help in terms of being able to offer residents the amenities. So we'll be best in class as far as amenities indoor and out. I think that's something that residents appreciate. And coming with scale comes the ability to do that. If you build a 50 unit, it's much more difficult to make that happen.
And to include affordable. And
Pardon
to
me?
include affordable.
Correct. That's right, yeah, yep, good point.
You know that the stormwater retention requirements have changed drastically since the mall was built. And the city's policy has been when you start touching something that was historically grandfathered in, you have to bring it up to current standards. Have you thought about where you handle the stormwater retention? That kind of stuff?
We have. I don't know how much to say about that or.
Well, currently, we've been, well, not currently, it's been ongoing for some time, talking to the Water Resource Commissioner in regards to these existing detention basins that surrounding the property now, and what the available capacity is available for the property. And we're in the process of adding mechanical sedimentation filters to the existing system. And we're working through some of the details in regards to infiltration and which direction we're really going to go with all this. So it's moving forward, but there's a lot of things that we still need to address. You mentioned before just about traffic patterns and so on. What's the estimated car volume coming in? Can you share what's your thinking? You have 350 units, each person's gonna have 1 or 2 cars, potentially. And you have a large 2 large retailers and an outcropping for a restaurant. Can Can you share with how many cars you're anticipating coming into the mall?
Not off the
How
top,
things are going?
not off the top of our heads, but that's one of the things that the traffic study is reflecting.
Right.
They compared, the peak times when the mall was operating versus what's going to be taking place in the future, and that was part of their entire analysis. So we have those numbers, but
I was just curious to know. So.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of other interests in the building, other apartment buildings on this big parking lot?
Well, there may be interest, but Simon doesn't own a good deal of that property. It's owned by Macy's, Penny's, Farmar. And we're, so, over time, never say never, right? There could be some more opportunities in the future. Part of what our contractual obligations with, as all the property owners on the site, we have to keep a minimum parking ratio, which one of the things we're doing with those, with the other anchors is working to reduce that number. But for now, no plans to do anything anywhere else. Maybe I should have just led with that.
I'm sure people are talking.
After developing all three properties, will they be continue to be owned by Simon?
Yes, Simon will own the ground under the retailer and the grocery, and then Simon Hines joint venture will own the residential. So we'll continue to own all of it, yeah.
And then will Hines manage the residential?
That to be determined. We have a residential operations platform called Willowick that does operate many of our properties around the country. It kind of depends market to market. Sometimes we hire a third party firm to manage, but sometimes we do ourselves.
One more question. Are you considering having some units be affordable, or is that not in the picture?
Yes, we will have some affordable units, yeah. We're working
Sorry,
through those details. No worries, no worries.
I know it's outside this area, but since you're a captive audience, the former restaurant, the Italian restaurant, the name of which I can't remember, that's now vacant, is that, can you discuss what the plans were for that?
So that was rezoned TC1 along the State Street corridor, which afforded more development rights, but also if we wanted to do something, as soon as we tear that building down, then we have all the TC1 requirements will kick in. So if we reuse the building as it sits, then we can operate it indefinitely in that footprint. But if we change it, so right now we're actively seeking, we're working with potential tenants for the building itself, and in the future we'll take advantage of that. Hopefully that TC1 zoning by ourselves or in conjunction with other adjacent property owners when it makes sense to, you can do more. It's hard to get dense on that one little parcel, but if you combine it with, adjacent parcels, then it starts to make sense.
Thank you.
So you were just discussing the former McRowan Grill. There's a vacant restaurant right adjacent to Macy's too. Do you have plans for that one?
Which one is that?
Are you talking about Bravo's place?
Bravo.
Oh, yeah, yes, we do. We have a new tenant for that. It's a steakhouse called Texas de Brazil, and they're under construction.
Okay.
When does that open, Erica?
They're targeting August of this year.
sir.
I think it's awesome. I really think it's a great idea. I think
Thank
the
you.
use is fantastic. I think there's been a lot of thought put into the layout. I think they will reinforce and support each other. I'm excited.
I appreciate that. We've been working on plans since pre-pandemic, and our plan before the pandemic looked quite different than it does now. But we were kind of forced to rethink the kind of things we want to underwrite, if we're developing something. So we've been knee deep in it for a long time. So it's easy for me to want to just be real clinical about it and say, okay, here we go. And then Brad reminds me that, yeah, it's a very exciting project. So we're happy it's underway. And hopefully we can get through these entitlements and start to take the building down. We're gonna have to have some type of party when that happens.
It's like giving birth, but it's well worth it.
That's right. Right, exactly. So, yes, sir.
This one's for Gensler. Can you go over some of the design elements and the thought process behind the utilization of the site?
Well, I can only speak to the residential.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, when we all got together, it was really about how to create this new community in the mall. I mean, having grown up in Ann Arbor, I've been to this mall many times. So, and it's sad to see it kind of become a little bit of a dead mall in a sense, at least the Sears component. So, and I can remember, taking AATA and getting off and going to the movie theater and everything. So that dynamism that was there before, I think, this adds something to it. So as we were thinking about the project, this constellation of things and creating a residential that doesn't feel like it's necessarily, I think Brad also mentioned this, not being in a parking lot. So we tried to pay close attention to those adjacencies, but we also want to deliver, the appropriate amount of housing to the market that really needs it. So the building itself, the elements here that you see are trying to scale it a little bit to the size of the mall, as well as kind of break up the facade. So again, it's you don't get a kind of the sameness going all the way down. So it's sort of broken up as you walk across the face of it. And then the landscape architect has done is really about trying to bend these paths and make kind of intimate spaces around for residences and, I guess other people, but mostly for the residents. So we have different amenities around to kind of curate, their experience. So it's not so much of it is near the mall, so it is by the mall, but we're trying to curate a real kind of residential experience.
Gotcha. As a follow-up to that, are there plans to potentially update the exterior facade to create architectural continuity between the resi and the existing mall?
Exterior-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, when you think about a mall, it's a picture frame, and on the exterior, the anchors take up most of the exterior. So it's hard to take what's there and, make, other than the entrances, which were renovated a bit ago, it's hard to really do anything. But I think we have a real opportunity in the corner where we're taking the Sears building down, and we can outward face those shops. And you can see that right here in this rendering. This is the grocery. Here's the entrance by Chipotle and CPK. And then all this can be activated, and we're creating, the new mall entry I mentioned is back there. So you'll be able to, this green space is something that we can hopefully activate. And, we can do community events there. So it'd be a cool space.
Very cool. Thank you.
I think just one other thing I would just mention, it's since that, we've also paid attention to the TC1 zoning and the idea of what the State Street master plan is. So this is, trying to engage that as well from a kind of urban perspective that the city is, mandated across the city.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, I think we've earned our cookies. So we may have a cookie, and we're here if you guys want to just ask us for any questions, that's fine. We'll be here until all your questions are answered if they're not already. So, yeah, we'll just be here. Yeah, appreciate it very much.
Take some cookies.